Hello, my dear friend. Welcome to the VUS Learning English podcast. My name is Anna. I am so happy that you are here today. Thank you for choosing to listen with me. It means so much. Today, we have a very special topic. We are going to talk about studying. We will learn the difference between looking busy and really learning. This episode will help you study better. It will help you feel more confident. It will help you feel more peaceful. I am so happy to share this with you. Thank you for being here with me. If you enjoy our time together, please think about following our podcast. When you follow or subscribe, it helps our podcast grow. It helps us reach more English learners all around the world, just like you. And I have a question for you. Where are you listening from today? Are you in India? Are you in Mexico? Are you in Ethiopia? Or maybe somewhere else? You can think about your answer. It is nice to imagine where everyone is. We are all here together, learning together. Okay, are you ready? Let's begin. I want you to imagine something. Imagine you are at your desk. You are ready to study. Your desk is very full. You have many colorful pens. We call these highlighters. They are yellow, pink, blue, and green, a rainbow of colors. You have your textbooks. They are open to the right page. You have your notes. Your notes are beautiful. You spent many hours writing them. They look perfect. You also have your laptop. Your computer is open. You have many, many tabs open. So many little windows at the top of your screen. It looks like a map of the stars in the sky. You look at your desk and you feel busy. You feel like you're doing a lot of work. You look like the perfect student, like a picture from a magazine, a picture of a very dedicated student, someone who works very hard. But I want you to be honest with yourself. Really, really honest. Are you really learning anything? Or does it just look like you are learning? This is a big question. Maybe the truth is you're not really learning. That is because you are not studying. You are performing. What does performing mean? It means you are acting. You are in a show. You are playing the part of a student. It is like you are an actor on a stage. And the show is called the studying show. This is the art of looking busy, but you are not really finishing anything important. You are not really learning. This is a secret truth. It can be hard to hear, but it explains so much. It explains why you feel so busy but not productive. It explains why you feel so tired at the end of the day, but you have nothing to show for your work. You learned nothing new. This is why you can go to the library for 6 hours. You can sit there all day, but you still feel scared about your exam. You feel a bad feeling in your stomach because you know you did not learn. You made a mistake. You thought that looking like you are working is the same as really learning, but they are not the same. The busyness is just a costume, like clothes for a play. The pretty, colorful notes are just props. Props are the things actors use on a stage. But you are not an actor. You are a learner. In this podcast episode, we are going to stop the show. We are tearing down the stage. We will understand why you perform, why you act like you are studying. We will look at the habits that keep you stuck, the things you do that do not help you. And the most important part, I will give you a new plan, a plan based on science, a plan based on how our brain really learns. This plan will help you switch. You will switch from performing to actually learning. It is time to stop acting. It is time to start understanding. And I am here to help you every step of the way. You are not alone. Section 1. The agitation. Why we perform. So, why do we do this? Why do we act like we are studying? Before we can fix this problem, we need to understand it. We need to find the root of the problem, the real reason. Why do so many of us fall into this trap? This trap of looking busy. Why do we choose habits that look good but do not help us learn? Listen carefully to this. It is not because you are lazy. No, that is not the reason. In fact, it is usually the opposite. You are trying very hard. This performance, this acting, comes from a mix of things. It is a mix of how your brain works. It is a mix of pressure from other people. And it is a big misunderstanding of what real learning is. Let's talk about these reasons. Let's understand why this studying show is so easy to be in. The first reason is a very powerful one. I call it the happy chemical trick. Your brain is made to want rewards. It likes feeling good. When you finish a task, your brain gives you a small gift. This gift is a chemical. It is called dopamine. Dopamine is the feel-good chemical. When you get it, you feel happy. You feel proud. It is like your brain is patting you on the back, saying, "Good job." Now think about the things we do when we perform studying. Highlighting a sentence in a book with a yellow pen, rewriting a paragraph to make it look pretty, organizing your files on your computer into perfect folders. These tasks are small. You can see the result right away, and you can finish them very quickly. Every time you do one of these small tasks, your brain gives you a little hit of dopamine, a little bit of that happy chemical. It feels good. It feels like you are making progress. So you do it again and again. You are not really learning the information, but you feel like you are learning. This creates a dangerous circle, a feedback loop. You spend hours and hours on these easy, low-impact activities. You are collecting these tiny dopamine hits. At the end of the day, you have a pile of beautiful, colorful pages, and your brain feels like it did a lot of work. But in reality, you are just chasing a feeling, the feeling of being productive. Not real productivity. It is like eating junk food, like candy or chips. It tastes good for a moment, but it does not give your body any real energy or health. These performative study habits are like junk food for your mind. They feel good for a second, but they give your brain zero real nourishment, zero real learning. This is a very important idea to understand. It is not your fault. Your brain is just trying to feel good, but we can teach it a better way. A way that helps you really learn. Now let's talk about the second reason. The second reason we perform is for an audience, for other people. This is the pressure of wanting people to like us and wanting to feel like a good student. We live in a world where how things look can feel more important than how things really are. The pressure to look like a good student is very big. Maybe you go to a coffee shop to study, not because you can focus there, but because you want people to see you studying. It projects an image of a smart, hardworking person. Maybe you post a picture on social media, a picture of your beautiful, organized desk, your aesthetic desk setup. Or you tell your friends, "I studied all weekend." You want them to think you are dedicated. This performance, this acting, often comes from fear. It is the fear of not being good enough, the fear that people will think you are not smart or not hardworking. So, being busy becomes a signal, a sign to other people that you are trying hard, that you are a good student. There was a survey of people at work. Most of them said they act busy for their managers. For students, the manager can be your teacher, it can be your parents, or it can be your friends. You are not just studying for a test. You are trying to get the part, the role of good student. This role, this idea of being a good student, gets mixed up with how you feel about yourself, your self-worth. So maybe you only studied for 2 very focused hours, 2 hours of real learning. But you feel like you need to say you studied for 8 hours. Because admitting you only studied for 2 hours feels like a failure. It feels like you did not do enough. But this is not true. 2 focused hours are better than 8 pretend hours. We will talk more about this later. Okay, now for the third reason. This one can be a little uncomfortable to think about. The third reason is the fear of the real work. Let's be honest with each other. Real learning is hard. It takes a lot of mental energy. It can make you feel tired. It can be frustrating. It can make you feel stuck. And often real learning means you have to see what you don't know. You have to face your limits. Real learning is not highlighting a sentence. Real learning is looking at a blank, empty page and trying to remember a difficult idea from your brain. Trying to explain it in your own words without looking at the book. Real learning is not rewriting your notes to make them look pretty. Real learning is trying a difficult practice problem and getting it wrong. And then trying it again and getting it wrong again. And then trying again and again until you finally understand it. Until you get it right. That is real hard, powerful learning. The easy tasks, the performative tasks, are a way to hide from this difficulty. They are a fancy kind of procrastination, a way to delay the real work. They are like a shield. They protect you from the hard work. They let you stay near your work without ever really touching it, without ever really thinking deeply about it. It is a defense mechanism. Your brain is trying to protect you. By keeping yourself busy with easy tasks, you protect yourself from the uncomfortable feeling of struggling. You protect yourself from the scary idea that maybe you don't understand the material yet. This is a choice to make things look good instead of making them good, a choice of optics over outcomes, of appearance over achievement. So what does this performance look like in real life? Let's look closely at the parts of performative studying. First, we have the most famous one, the biggest actor on the stage, the highlighter illusion. That bright, colorful line on the page, the yellow, the pink, the blue. It feels so good to do, right? It feels so productive. You are actively marking what is important. It feels like you are doing something smart. But this is one of the biggest lies in studying. Science has shown this again and again. Highlighting is one of the least effective ways to study. It does not work well. A very big study in the year 2013 looked at many ways to study. The study said highlighting has low utility. That means it is not very useful. It offers very little benefit. It is almost the same as just reading the text. Some studies even say highlighting can be bad for you. It can hurt your ability to see the big picture. It tricks your brain. It makes you focus on one single fact instead of seeing how all the facts connect. The problem with highlighting is that it is passive. You are not using your brain in a deep way. It creates something called the illusion of knowledge. An illusion is something that is not real. You see the highlighted words on the page and you recognize them. You think, oh, I know this. But this feeling of familiarity is a trick. You mistake this feeling for real understanding. But recognizing something is not the same as remembering it. On an exam, the test paper is blank. There are no highlighted words to help you, and that feeling of familiarity, it disappears. You cannot remember the answer. So we must be careful with our highlighters. They are not a magic tool for learning. Next, let's talk about the note-taking trap. This is the art of making beautiful notes, elaborate notes. Notes that are so perfect, they could be in a museum. You spend hours and hours copying lectures or rewriting chapters from your textbook. You write them in a special notebook with special pens. It feels like hard work. It feels like you are being a very good student. But if you are not using those notes to actively test yourself, you are just performing again. You are just acting. Copying words from one place to another is a passive activity. It is only a little better than just rereading the book. Your brain is focused on the physical act of writing, the movement of your hand, not the mental act of understanding, not the deep thinking. The beautiful notes become a monument, a statue, a monument to your effort, a sign that you spent a lot of time. But they are not a tool for learning, and we want tools, not monuments. Okay, what is next? Next is the resource hoarder fallacy. A fallacy is a false idea. A hoarder is someone who collects too many things. This is the student who has 87 tabs open on their computer. This is the student who has downloaded 200 PDF files. This is the student who buys every single recommended book for the class. It feels like preparation. It feels like you're getting ready for success. You are gathering all the tools you need. But really, this is another way to avoid the real work. Another form of procrastination. You are so busy collecting information that you never have time to actually learn the information. The huge pile of resources, the mountain of books and files, it becomes an excuse not to start the real hard work of learning. It creates an illusion of being prepared. You feel ready, but you are not using any of the resources you collected. And finally, there's the celebration of the grind. Our world today often loves the idea of the hustle, the idea of working all the time. We hear stories about people who worked 16 hours every day, people who only sleep for 4 hours. And we are told they are successful. We are told to be like them. As a student, this idea can be very dangerous. It makes you believe that the number of hours you spend in the library is the most important thing. It makes you think that more hours equals more learning. You start to wear your tiredness like a prize, like a badge of honor. You say to your friends, I pulled an all-nighter. This means you stayed awake all night to study. And you say it with a tired smile, but also a proud smile. You want them to know how hard you worked. But this is the most toxic performance of all, the most unhealthy act. It makes a big mistake. It thinks that Time spent studying is the same as work done. It thinks that being present is the same as being productive. This idea completely ignores the quality of your time. And quality is what matters. Listen to this carefully, my friend. 1 hour of focused, active learning is more valuable than a whole day of distracted, passive studying. 1 good hour is better than 10 bad hours. The grind, the hustle, does not care about results. It only cares about the appearance of sacrifice, the look of working hard. But we care about results. We care about real learning. We care about your peace of mind. We care about you. If any of this is sounding familiar to you, if you see yourself in these stories, please do not feel bad. This is a wonderful moment. This is a moment of awareness. And awareness is the first step to change. If you are ready to leave the stage, if you are ready to stop acting and start learning for real, then keep listening. Because now we are getting to the good part, the best part, the solution. Section 2. The solution, from performer to learner. All right, the hard part is over. We have talked about the problem. We have looked at the empty stage of performative studying. Now for the most important part. How do you walk off that stage? How do you stop being an actor and become a real learner? The secret is not to study harder. You are probably already working very hard. You are already tired. The secret is to study smarter. It is about changing what you do. It is about swapping your old habits for new habits. We will swap the habits that only look good for strategies that are proven to work. Strategies based on evidence and science. This change happens in 3 simple steps. Step 1 is the audit. Step 2 is the toolkit. And step 3 is the system. This is your simple guide, your friendly plan to fire the actor and hire the scholar, the real learner inside you. Let's begin with step 1. Step 1, the audit. Diagnosis and awareness. You cannot fix a problem that you cannot see. So the first step is to see your habits clearly. It is an act of self-awareness. Being aware of what you do. You need to become a detective in your own study life. You need to look at your habits with complete honesty, with brutal honesty. I call this the honesty hour. For 1 week, I want you to track your study time. Write down how you spend your time. But do not just write down the number of hours. That is not enough. I want you to put every task into a category. Take a piece of paper, make 2 columns, 2 lists. The first column is passive or performing. The second column is active or learning. Now, what goes in the passive column? In the passive column, you can list things like rereading your notes or the textbook, watching lecture videos without taking notes or thinking deeply, highlighting sentences, copying your notes to make them look pretty, organizing your computer files, or just having your book open while your mind is somewhere else, while you are distracted. These are all passive, performative tasks. They look like studying, but they are not real learning. Now, what goes in the active column? In the active column, you can list things like answering practice questions from your book, solving problems without looking at the answer first, explaining a concept out loud with your own words, drawing a diagram or a mind map from your memory, using flashcards to test yourself. These are all active learning tasks. They make your brain work. They build real knowledge. Do this for 1 week. Every time you study, write down what you did and put it in the correct column. At the end of the week, look at your 2 columns. Look at your 2 lists. The results might be a surprise. They might shock you. Many students feel like they study for 30 hours a week. But when they do this exercise, they discover something. They discover they only spend 2 or 3 hours on real active learning. The other 27 hours are spent on passive performative tasks. The goal of this is not to make you feel bad. No, not at all. The goal is to give you power. The power of information. The power of data. This is your starting point, your baseline. This is the truth, and now you can change it. Next, after your honesty hour, you have to define your goal. Performative studying often has no goal. It is aimless. You sit down at your desk and you say, I am going to study biology. But what does that mean? Study biology. It is too big. It is too vague. It does not give you direction. A vague goal is an invitation to waste time, an invitation to perform. Real effective learning is different. It is goal-oriented. It has a clear purpose. So, before you open a book, I want you to answer a question. The question is, what must I be able to do when this study session is over? Think about this question carefully. Not what will I read? Not what will I watch? But what will I be able to do? The answer to this question should be a specific skill. Something you can show, something you can demonstrate. For example, a good goal could be, after 1 hour, I will be able to solve 3 types of math problems without looking at my notes. This is a clear, active goal. Another example. After this session, I will be able to draw the life cycle of a plant from memory, and I will label every stage. This is also a clear, active goal. One more example. Today, I will learn about the main causes of a historical event. I will be able to explain them in my own simple words. When you have a clear, active goal, it forces you to move past the passive habits. You cannot just highlight anymore, because highlighting will not help you solve math problems from memory. Your goal decides your method. Your goal tells you what to do. This is a very powerful shift. Finally, there's a powerful tool to help you with this. A tool to check if you really understand something. This tool is called the Feynman technique. It is named after a very famous scientist, a Nobel Prize winner. His name was Richard Feynman. This technique is very, very effective. It is like a mirror. It shows you the gaps in your knowledge, the holes in your understanding. The idea is very simple. If you cannot explain something in simple words, you do not really understand it. That's it. It is that simple. Here is how to use this technique. First, choose an idea you think you know, a concept from your class. Second, take a blank sheet of paper, an empty page. At the top of the paper, write the name of the concept. Third, now explain it. Explain it in your own words. Imagine you are teaching it to a 12-year-old child. Use very simple language. Do not use complicated words or jargon. Use analogies. An analogy is when you say something is like something else. For example, the brain is like a computer. Now, as you are explaining, pay attention. Pay attention to the moment you stop, the moment you hesitate, the moment you feel stuck, or the moment you have to use a complicated word because you cannot simplify it. That moment, that is the gap. That is where your knowledge ends. That is the hole that your performative studying was hiding. Now you can see it clearly. So the fourth step is to go back to your book. Go back to the source material and learn just that specific part again. Fill that specific gap in your knowledge. Then go back to your blank paper and try to explain it again. Simplify your explanation until it is perfectly clear, until a child could understand it. When you can do that, you truly understand it. You have learned it deeply. This technique is your secret weapon against the illusion of knowledge. Step 2, the toolkit, evidence-based learning strategies. Okay, now you have done the audit. You are aware of your habits. You know your weaknesses. You can see the gaps in your knowledge. Now it is time to build your new toolkit, your arsenal. We are going to replace the fake props of performance studying, the highlighters and pretty notes, and we will replace them with heavy machinery, powerful tools from the world of cognitive science, from the science of how we learn. These strategies are proven to work. They are tested. They build deep, strong, long-lasting knowledge. Are you ready to learn about your new power tools? Let's go. Principle 1, active recall, the anti-performance method. This is it. If you only remember one thing from our talk today, please remember this. This is the single most important, most powerful principle for effective learning. It is called active recall. What is active recall? It is the act of actively, with effort, pulling information out of your memory. It is the opposite of passive review. Passive review is when you just look at your notes or you reread the textbook. The information is going into your brain. Active recall is when you force your brain to pull the information out without looking at the answer. It forces your brain to search for the information, to find the pathway to it, and to rebuild it. This action, this pulling out, is a powerful act of learning itself. Let's talk about why it works. Every time you successfully pull a piece of information from your memory, you make the neural pathway to that information stronger. You make the road to that memory wider and clearer. This makes it easier to find and recall that information in the future. A famous psychologist named Robert Bjork said something very important. He said, "When we use our memories by retrieving things, we change our access to that information." Retrieving means pulling it out. So the act of remembering something changes your memory. It makes it stronger. Many studies have shown this. The act of testing yourself, of retrieving information, helps you remember it for much longer than just rereading it. Even if you spend the same amount of time. 1 hour of active recall is much better than 1 hour of rereading. So this is not just about checking if you know something. It is about the process of making your memories stronger and more permanent. So how can you use active recall in your life? Here are some practical, easy ways. First, flashcards. Many people use flashcards, but they use them passively. They look at the front and then immediately look at the back. That is not active recall. To do it right, you must say the answer out loud before you flip the card over. Force your brain to find the answer. If you get it right, great. Put it in a know it pile. If you get it wrong, do not just look at the answer and move on. Read the answer carefully. Then put the card back into your main pile. So you have to try again later. You must force yourself to retrieve it again correctly. Second, the blank page method. This is very simple and very powerful. After you read a chapter of a book, or after you watch a lecture, close everything, close your book, put away your notes. Take a blank piece of paper, an empty page. On this page, write down everything you can remember. Write down the main ideas, the key concepts. Draw the diagrams, write the formulas, everything you can pull from your memory. Do this for a few minutes. Only after you have tried your best, go back to your book or your notes. Check your work. See what you remembered correctly. See what you forgot. See what you remembered incorrectly. The things you forgot are your gaps. Now you can see them, so you can fill them. Third, question generation. This is a great way to study. When you are taking notes, do not just write down statements. Turn your notes into questions. So if your note says the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, you can turn this into a question. What is the powerhouse of the cell? Or what is the function of the mitochondria? Now, your study session is simple. You just try to answer all of your questions without peeking at the answers. This forces you to be in a constant state of active recall, a constant state of pulling information from your brain. Fourth, teach it to someone or something. This is related to the Feynman technique. Try to explain a concept to a friend or your brother or sister. If no one is around, you can even explain it to a rubber duck on your desk or your favorite plant. It does not matter. The act of organizing the information, putting it in a logical order so someone else can understand it, is a very powerful form of active recall. It makes you think deeply. Active recall is the medicine for performative studying. It is the cure. It makes it impossible to just pretend you are learning because you are constantly checking, constantly proving to yourself what you know and what you don't. It is hard, it takes effort, but it works, and it will give you real confidence. Okay, are you ready for the second powerful tool in our toolkit? This is principle number 2. Principle 2, spaced repetition, learning that lasts. I'm sure you know this feeling. You have a big exam tomorrow, so you study all night, you cram, you stay up late, you read everything again and again. And for the exam, you feel like you know it all, you pass the test. But then 1 week later, someone asks you a question about that topic. And your mind is blank. It is gone. Everything you learned has disappeared. What happened? This is a famous idea in psychology. It is called the forgetting curve. It was discovered by a psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus a long time ago. The forgetting curve shows that we naturally forget information over time, especially if we do not try to remember it. We can forget a lot of new information very quickly. Sometimes we forget 70% of new information in just 24 hours, just one day. This is normal. It happens to everyone. But there is an antidote. There is a medicine for the forgetting curve. And it is called spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is the practice of reviewing information at the right time. You review it at increasing intervals, at longer and longer spaces of time. So you learn something today, you review it tomorrow, then you review it again in 3 days, then you review it again in 1 week, then in 2 weeks, and so on. Why does this work so well? When you review information just at the moment you are about to forget it, you send a very powerful signal to your brain. The signal says, hey, this is important. Do not forget this. Keep it. And your brain listens. Every time you do this, the memory gets stronger. It gets more embedded, more stuck in your long-term memory. Many studies show that spaced learning is much more effective for long-term memory than cramming. Even if the total study time is exactly the same. 5 hours of studying spread over a week is much better than 5 hours of studying in one night. So, how can you use spaced repetition? Here are some practical ideas. First, you can use spaced repetition software, SRS. There are computer apps for this. A very famous one is called Anki, A-N-K-I. These apps make it very easy. They automate the process. You make digital flashcards. The app shows you a card. You try to remember the answer. Then you tell the app how hard it was. You can say, this was easy, or this was hard, or I forgot. Based on your answer, the app's algorithm will decide when to show you that card again. If it was hard, you might see it again in 10 minutes. If it was easy, you might see it again in 10 days. The app does all the scheduling for you. It is a very powerful tool. But you do not need a computer to do this. You can use a low-tech system, a physical system. One is called the Lightner system. You use several boxes for your paper flashcards, maybe 3 or 5 boxes. All your new cards start in box number 1. You review the cards in box 1 every day. When you get a card right, it graduates. It moves to box number 2. You review the cards in box 2 every 3 days. If you get a card in box 2 right, it moves to box number 3. You review these cards once a week. But if you get a card wrong at any time, it gets demoted. It goes all the way back to box number 1. It has to start the journey all over again. This system makes sure you spend more time on the things you find hard and less time on the things you already know well. Or you can use a very simple method, a simple calendar schedule. You do not need any special software or boxes, just a calendar. After you learned something new today, you can schedule a review on your calendar for tomorrow. Then schedule another review for 3 days from now, then another one for a week from now, and so on. Spaced repetition is your tool for making learning stick, for making it last. It is how you move information from your short-term memory into your deep, long-term memory. It takes planning, but it saves you so much time and stress in the long run. No more cramming, no more forgetting. Now for our third and final tool in the toolkit. Principle 3, interleaving varied practice, building real-world skill. Let's think about the traditional way we study, the normal way. Often we use something called blocked practice. This means you study one topic or one type of problem again and again until you feel you have mastered it. For example, you study Chapter 1. You do all the problems for Chapter 1. Only when you feel perfect at Chapter 1, you move to Chapter 2. Then you do all of the problems for Chapter 2. This feels very organized. It feels neat and tidy. Your progress feels very clear. But this feeling is another illusion, another trick. The opposite of blocked practice is a method called interleaving. Interleaving means you mix things up. You study or practice different topics or different types of problems, all in the same study session. Why is this better? Let's talk about it. In blocked practice, when you do 20 problems of type A in a row, your brain doesn't have to think very much. After the first 2 or 3 problems, you know the procedure. You just repeat the same steps over and over. It becomes automatic. But with interleaving, it is different. Imagine you have a mix of problems. Problem type A, then type B, then type C. Then A again, then C, then B. Now for each problem, your brain has to do an extra step first. First, it has to look at the problem and decide, what kind of problem is this? Is this an A, a B, or a C? Then it has to remember the correct method or formula for that type of problem. And then it can try to solve it. This is much harder. It feels slower. It can feel more confusing. But research shows that this struggle is good. This struggle leads to a much deeper and more flexible understanding. And it leads to much better performance on the final exam. Why? Because on the exam, all the topics are mixed up anyway. The exam is interleaved. So practicing with interleaving is practicing for the real test. How can you use interleaving in your studies? For math or science, instead of doing 20 problems about topic A and then 20 problems about topic B, mix them up. Do a few of A, then a few of B, then a few of C. Then go back to A. Make your practice look like the test. For languages, do not just study vocabulary for 1 hour. That is blocked practice. Instead, interleave your activities. Do 15 minutes of vocabulary flashcards. Then do 15 minutes of a grammar exercise. Then spend 15 minutes listening to a podcast in that language. And then spend 15 minutes trying to write a few sentences. Mix it up. For history, instead of only studying the American Revolution this week, try to compare it to the French Revolution. Ask yourself questions like, how were the causes of these two revolutions similar? How were they different? This forces your brain to pull information about both topics, and it forces you to make new connections between them. This is deep learning. Interleaving feels harder, but it is one of the keys to building real skill, a skill that you can use in new and unexpected situations, which is the whole point of learning. Step 3, the system. Building your personal learning engine. Okay, my friend, we have done so much. You have audited your habits, and you have your new powerful toolkit. Active recall, spaced repetition, and interleaving. But having great tools is not enough. A great carpenter needs more than a good hammer and a good saw. He needs a plan. He needs a system. So, this final step is about creating a system to use your tools, to integrate them into your life. This is about building the structure and the environment for these powerful principles to work for you. First, let's talk about environment design. Remember that beautiful coffee shop? The one that looks so good on Instagram? It is probably a terrible place for deep, focused work. Your study space should be a special place, a sanctuary for focus, not a stage for performance. This means you must minimize distractions. Put your phone in another room, turn it off, or put it on silent. The temptation is too strong. Close all the unnecessary tabs on your computer. Facebook, YouTube, news websites, close them all. Make sure you are comfortable, your chair, your lighting. If it is possible, try to have a space that you only use for studying. Just for studying, not for eating or watching movies. This helps to train your brain. Your brain learns that when you are in this chair, at this desk, it is time to focus. It becomes an automatic trigger for concentration. Next, you need to use momentum over motivation. What does this mean? Motivation is a feeling, an emotion, and feelings change. Some days you feel motivated. Some days you don't. You cannot wait until you feel like studying. If you do that, you will not study very often. The secret is to make getting started so incredibly easy that you do not need any motivation at all. The beginning is always the hardest part. The friction to get started is high. So start with the smallest, easiest possible task. A task that moves you just one tiny step toward your goal. If your goal for the day is to solve hard physics problems, that can feel very big and scary. So don't start there. Start by just reviewing one simple example problem you already understand, just for 2 minutes. Anyone can do that. It is so easy. But the magic is that once you start moving, even just a little bit, it is much easier to keep moving. This is momentum. An object in motion stays in motion. So forget motivation. Focus on making it easy to start. Focus on momentum. Next, you must practice pattern recognition. This means being smart about what you study. Studying should not be a blind attack on the textbook. Reading every single word from page 1 to the end. You need to be a strategist, a smart planner. Look at your class plan, your syllabus. Look at old exams from previous years if you can find them. Look at the practice tests your teacher gives you. What patterns do you see? What kinds of questions are the most common? What topics does your teacher emphasize? What ideas come up again and again? This information is gold. It helps you focus your energy. It helps you focus your active recall and your spaced repetition on the material that is most likely to be important, the highest yield material. You are no longer a passive student just receiving information. You are now an active manager of your own learning process. And finally, please remember this. There is no one-size-fits-all system. There is no one perfect system that works for every person in every situation. I have given you the principles. Active recall, spaced repetition, interleaving. I have given you the building blocks. But my perfect system will not be your perfect system. Your perfect system depends on your subjects. Math is different from history. It depends on your schedule, your job, your family. And it depends on what you learned about yourself during your honesty hour. The goal is not to copy my system or anyone else's system. The goal is to use these powerful evidence-based principles to build your own engine for learning, an engine that is perfectly made for you. So experiment, try new things, tweak the system, change it, adapt. Be a scientist of your own success. You have the power to do this. Putting all of these ideas together can feel like the hardest part. How do you make a real weekly plan? How do you turn these ideas into your real life? To help you with this, I want you to imagine something. Imagine a blueprint, a plan for a house. You can create your own blueprint for learning. Let's call it the Learning System Blueprint. You don't need to download anything. This blueprint is something you can create yourself on a simple piece of paper. First, write down what you learned from your honesty hour. Where do you spend your time? Second, choose your tools. Will you use flashcards, the blank page method, the Feynman technique? Write them down. Third, design your weekly study schedule. Plan when you will study and plan what kind of studying you will do. Use the principles we talked about. Schedule time for active recall. Schedule your spaced repetition reviews in your calendar. Plan to mix up your topics with interleaving. This is your personal plan, your framework. It is a concrete way for you to start building your own system right away. You can do this. You can be the architect of your own learning. We started this journey together on a stage. We were playing the part of a student. We were surrounded by the props of productivity. The highlighters, the perfect notes, the endless open tabs on our computer. We were busy, we were tired, and we were scared. Scared that our performance was not good enough. The most important message of today is this. You have to be willing to walk off that stage. You have to be willing to trade the comfortable feeling of being busy for the sometimes uncomfortable reality of real, genuine learning. We have seen that performative studying is a trap. It looks good, but it is empty. But the solution is not to study more. The solution is to change what you do in your study hours. The path forward is a 3-step process, a simple plan. First, the audit, an honest look at your current habits. Second, the toolkit, arming yourself with the power of active recall, spaced repetition, and interleaving. And third, the system, designing a personal learning engine that is made for you and that actually works. There's a phrase I want you to remember. I hope it makes you feel free. I hope it gives you peace. Here it is. You never had a studying problem. You just had a method problem. Let me say that again. You never had a studying problem. You just had a method problem. You were not lazy. You were not dumb. You were not bad at studying. You were just using the wrong tools. You were trying to build a giant, beautiful skyscraper, but you were using a small plastic toy hammer. It is not your fault that it did not work. The freedom and the confidence that come from real understanding, from real competence, are a world away from the constant stress and anxiety of pretending, of keeping up a performance. Imagine this. Imagine walking into your next exam, but you do not feel that horrible pit of dread in your stomach. Instead, you feel a quiet confidence, a calm feeling, because you know that you did the real work. You know that you systematically, day by day, built that knowledge into your long-term memory. That is the difference between performing and learning, and you deserve to feel that confidence. Your education is not a stage performance. It is not a show for other people. It is the real, concrete, beautiful construction of your future self, of your future mind. Do not make that process cheap by settling for the appearance of learning. Demand the real thing for yourself. Stop acting. Stop performing. It is time to start learning. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. We learned a lot together. We learned about the trap of performing our studies. And we learned about powerful science-based ways to learn for real. Remember, learning is a journey. It is a process. It takes time. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. Every small step in the right direction is a victory. You are capable of amazing things. Keep going. Don't give up. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart for listening. If this episode was helpful for you, please consider sharing it with a friend who might need to hear it. And if you have a moment, a like, or a follow on your podcast app, helps us reach more learners all over the world. I hope you have a wonderful week, full of peace and full of real learning. See you next time, my friend. Goodbye for now.